So today I'm going to do a review of what we have covered in class. So to start, I'm going to clear everything in command window. This is a command window. So CLC will clear everything, and clear all will clear everything here in the workspace. So the first lesson in Matlab, what we learned was that we are in Matlab working with arrays and matrices. Even when you write 2, when you type 2, Matlab looks at 2 as a matrix 1 by 1, that 2 is inside that. So if you want to create an array, you use bracket. So 1, 2, 3 will create a matrix 1, 2, 3. If you want to have 2 rows, then you type 1, 2, 3, semicolon, 3, 4, 5. That will make this semicolon will bring 3, 4, 5 to the second row. And so on. If you want another row, then you put another semicolon here. If you want to reach any of these elements in matrix, for example, 4, so 4 is in row 2, column 2. So you type A, 2, 2, and it will give you 4. If you want to create a submatrix from this matrix, for example, you want only 2, 4, 3, 5 out of this matrix A, you define another matrix B, and then it will be a submatrix of A. You want row 1 and 2, so for rows you want 1 and 2, and for the columns you want 2 and 3, 2, 3. So if this is your matrix A, you got 2, 4, 3, 5, because the way you read it, before comma, these are all rows, and after comma, these are all columns. So you want go from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. Or another way is that I want all the rows, so all the rows you just put a column, and then you want column 2 to 3. And that's what you get, the same thing, the same answer. So this column, as you see, if you type 2, column 3, that means columns 2 and 3. But if you type, for example, 2 to, for example, 9, it goes from 2 to 9. If you want to, if you type this, so what does it mean? It goes to 2 to 7, it increments it by 3. So 2 incremented by 3 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, so it's not in the range, so it doesn't show it. So that's how you create matrices. And then there are some built-in functions that you can use if you need, for example, a matrix that has only zeros, you type zeros. And let's say you want 2 by 2 matrix that has zeros, you just type zeros 2. If the number of columns are not equal to the number of rows, then you just say, for example, 5, 6. So you have 5 for your rows and 6 for your column. Another one is I. For example, 5. So it gives you ones only on the diagonal. So that's an identity matrix. And then ones will give you only ones. For example, ones 5, 5 by 5 matrix, all ones. If the number of rows are not equal to the number of columns, you just type 5, 4, for example. 5 is rows. The first element is always rows. The second column. And then let's say I want to plot, let's say this is 1, 2, 3, and B is 6, 7, 8. If you want to plot A versus B, you just type plot A, B, and the plot should come. So this is your A, this is your B. Now let's talk about the important thing about plot is that this is basically A and B always have to have the same size. So for each A, you have to have a B. 2 to 7, 3 is for 8, 1 is for 6, 2 is for 7, 3 is for 8. And the next thing I want to talk about is arithmetic operators. So in Matlab, so this percentage sign just means I'm writing comments. So Matlab just takes them as comment, doesn't do anything. We talked about multiplication in class, division, take a power of something, plus and minus. Now, if you multiply two matrices together, you can just type A. You define another matrix C, which is A times B. So remember, when you type equal, that means it takes whatever is on the right side, put it on the left side. So now this code means that multiply A to B, put it in C. Always put the right side. Okay. So because the size, incorrect dimensions for matrix multiplication. So I'm multiplying. So why I got an error? Because this is 1 by 3. This is 1 by 3. So I have to make it 3 by 1. So this is possible. One way is to do that is transpose. So transpose, you just put the code there. And now it's 44. Because it's 1 to 3, 3 to 1, it gives you 1 by 1 matrix, which means a number. If you put A dot multiply B, now you get an answer. So this dot here before multiplication means term by term multiplication. So if this is your A, this is your B, the answer is 6 times 1 is 6, 2 times 7 is 14, 3 times 8 is 24. So it multiplies it term by term. The same thing as for division. So if you say A divided by B, it divides A by 1 by 6, 2 divided by 7, 3 divided by 8. So it's term by term division. Same thing as for exponentiation. So if you say A power of 2, it will take each term of A. What was A? Each term, and 1 power of 2 is 1, 2 power of 2 is 4, 3 power of 2 is 9. So whenever you see a dot, that means term by term. Otherwise, it means if you type like this, again, it wouldn't work because you're multiplying it into, you have to transpose it. Otherwise, the dimensions don't match. There are two divisions. There are two operators allowing to divide in Matlab. One is the right. So one is this one, and the other one is this one. So the right division represented by slash, the left division is represented by backslash. So what does it mean? For example, if A is 6, so I'm putting 6 to A, and B is, let's put it 8, and B is 4. Now, A divided by B should give me 2. Which it doesn't give me 2, it gives me A divided by B and now let's say A divided by B. Okay. What is my A? Didn't I change it? So my A is 6. I said my A is 8. Can you change it to 8? And my B is 2. Now A divided by B is 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I want B divided by A. Now it gives me a different answer. Why? Because A divided by B is 8 divided by 2. A divided by B. Now let's do it this way. A divided by B. It gives me, so A divided by B, sorry. So A divided by B, but it's a backslash. So that means B divided by A. What was B? It was 2A, 8. 2 divided by 8 is 0.25. So there is a difference. In summary, there is a difference between backslash and a slash. Let's do an example for a matrix. So let's say this is my matrix 2, 2, 2, 2. And B is another matrix 3, 2, 1, 1. Now I want to divide A by B. A by B. I divided here by small b, which was a mistake. I'm dividing A by B. Now, let's divide A backslash B. As you see, you get a completely different answer. Even if you want to divide, as I said, A divided by B by a slash, it's just a division. Backslash is the reverse. Instead of A divided by B, it's B divided by A. And if you want to do division element by element, you just type dot division. Okay, so far we have written in command window. You can go and, yes, edit. So if you type edit, there is a script shows here. You can either do that or go to new and script. So if you want to save your code, then you shouldn't type it here in command window. You have to type it here and then save it, and every time you need it, you can run it. If you type everything in command window, when you turn off your computer or close Matlab, you will lose them all. So if you want to save your commands, always write them in editor. For example, I have an angle that goes from 0 to 2 pi. What line of space does, it goes from this point to this point, 0 to 2 pi, and so it divides 0 to 2 pi by 100 and divides it in 100 segments, and then takes one segment at a time. And if you don't know what a built-in function does, you can always come in command window and type help for example, line space. And it gives you all the information. So what I did, line space with 3 elements generates m points. So this one generates 100 points between 0 and 2 pi. So that's the first line. And then let's say I want to create cosine of theta and plot theta and x. The first step is to save it. So you save it, you have to put a name that makes sense so you would remember what you did. Let's say this one is plotting cosine function. And then you save it. So I'm getting an error. Why? Because the name that I use has the same name as a Matlab built-in. We suggest you rename the function to avoid a potential name conflict. So that's not a good name because it has cosine in it. So I'm going to change it, cosine and plot. So I'm going to change it graph for cosine function. And then I save it. Again, we suggest you name the function to avoid a potential name conflict. Okay. Then you go back. You put graph for graph example. Okay. And you get a nice graph. This is a cosine function versus angle in radians 0 to 2 pi. So that's what we did was we created a script file. Now let's say you want to create a function. Before going to function, if you want to run it, you can either type here, run from here, or you can just type graph example in command window and it comes up. So there are different ways of showing the result without m, without .m. As you see, all the scripts, the extension is .m. Now let's say I want to create a function. So as you know, function is a relationship between some variables that create an output. So you can go to new and function. So now you see it's this script is already made in a way that you just have to plug in your values. Let's say you want to create a function that adds 2 numbers. So you can call your function, you can put the name here, let's put the name add. You want to add x and y. X and y. And you want to, so this part is your output. So you want what you want to add. The assignment is that you want to add 2 numbers, a and b, for example, 2 and 3. And you want to create a function for that. And you want to put it in another function, another variable, for example, z. So that's my function. I want to add, and my function depends on a and b. I want my function to take these two variables, add them, put it in z. So my output is z. This part, you put your output. So you can delete this. Depending on the number of outputs, I only have one output. So I put z. When you only have one output, you don't even need these brackets, but you can keep it. Okay, so what my function is doing, it's adding x and y. So z or a and b. You can put them a and b. A, b. Doesn't matter. It's just, I'm trying to be consistent. So z is equal to a plus b and end. So now you have a function. You save it. And example. Okay, again, this name is not good because add is already exists. So help add. I think that says it doesn't exist. So let's say I want to say A is 5, B is 6, add 5 plus 6. Okay, let's put add example. Add example 3, 4. Okay. So if you put add example 3, 4, it's adding these two for you. Wonder why add didn't work. Add 3, 4. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to add example. It's important that the name of the function doesn't already exist in MATLAB. So now you have created a function, add example, and it should work for any numbers like A, 17. It will add it for you. Now I want to create a script. So I'm going to write another code and use this function that I have written here. Because as you know, there are functions that are built in MATLAB, for example, sine, cosine. These are just examples. So somebody else has written a code for sine and cosine just like we did for add example. And every time you type it, it's there. So you have to make sure that you don't use a name that is already a built-in function here. One way is typing exist sin. So help exist. So if you type help exists, you see that if you get number 5, if name is a built-in Matlab function, it gives you 5. If you get 0, it says name doesn't exist. If you get 1, it means it's a variable in the workplace. So when I typed exist add, it doesn't exist. So it should work. But it says it has the same. Okay, I'll get to this later, but add example works. So add example, AB. So you just type add example 8, 7, and it will give you 15, which is the right answer. Now let's say this is my function. I've built a function. So like sine and cosine, it should work if I write a code in a new script. So let's say I create a code. I say it's an interactive one. So input is a built-in function that takes the input from the user, for example, me, user, enter the first number. And if you type this, it will come in command window when I run my program, and whatever number you put there, it will come and be inside A. This variable will, A will become this variable. So that's the first one. B, input, user, enter the second number. And you have created a function here, add example. Then you see, then you can say answer, which is a variable for you, is add example A and B. So what this program should do is that it should take 2 numbers from the user. Input makes it interactive, so you can give a number to put in A and a number to put in B. Then this built-in function that you created should add them and put it in the answer. So let's save it. So you have to save it in the same location as your add example. So if you have saved add example in this file, then this script should be saved there as well. A script for add example. Okay. And then I run it. So it says user enter the first number, 5. User enter the second number, 7. It gives you 12. So you created a function and now you're using it in a script. So that covers functions. And basically, difference between a script and function is that the variables inside a function basically are erased after. But the variables of the script here, they always remain in this workspace. So if you want to look at answer, here you can have You can save 12 basically.